All right, we are back on the Barn Burner for Flames Nation. It's a little break and a special guest in studio. I still have piano music in my ears, which is lovely, very soothing.
Very elevator.
It's like we're riding the elevator to the penthouse to check in.
Comments love it too. Apparently,
to check in with Calgary royalty, Mike Soroka. Mike, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
It's great to see you. I feel like it's we get to check in usually late fall, early winter, and then by the new year, you're disappearing to go.
Yep.
Throw projectiles in Florida, and you finally get to meet Rhett. I think Rhett, we've had Mike on a ton, but you're always out of town or in your basement.
Do you get to strut around Calgary like Commodore used to do? Like when you come back, you just chest out, shirts off, just downtown.
Look at me, nowhere near.
Like if I was you, that's what I would do.
No, I'm nowhere near as recognizable as those guys here. We're not like you guys. You guys were royalty. I'm not royalty here yet. You guys in 04, that's when I got into hockey big time. And I would have known that redhead anywhere.
So, Mike, if you're correct, you were a big Kipper guy, and that threw you into playing net, and that allowed you to be a professional baseball player because you weren't good at net. So the 04 Flames really carved out your career for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I had, me and hundreds of other kids wanted to be goalies then. And my baseball was spent in the summer, right? So all these other kids would be in camps all summer, and year-round hockey just wasn't it for me at the time. And that's when I kind of said, all right, let's go baseball and see what happens. And I grew a ton, threw a lot harder, and here we are.
So a couple things. Odd that if you don't play year-round hockey, you might turn into accomplish something else in life. Weird. Whoa.
Yeah.
Mind blown for about 90% of the parents out there. Second thing, you can just fax me a check for about 5% of your contract then, because I got Kiprusoff traded here, which meant that you played net, which allowed you to play baseball. So we're in cahoots here. Like,
makes sense.
It was my
I'll
screw up.
Reach out.
It was my screw up that brought Kiprusoff to Calgary. So you're welcome.
Yeah, tell the story again, right? This is good because obviously Daryl knew Mika from the Sharks organization where he'd coached, but you taking credit for it, that's a bit of a plot twist for many.
Well, and we were actually playing San Jose, and San Jose's GM, Mike Greer, was playing for San Jose, and it was a penalty kill in the second period, and Greersy absolutely blew by me like I was standing still. He went wide, and I watched him. And so it was a emergency action needed to be taken. So I tripped him, and he crashed into Roman Turek and wrecked his knee. Hence, we needed a goaltender. Hence, Kiprusoff to Calgary.
There it is. 1-2, buckle your shoe. Easy. Now, what do you remember about Rhett in that 04? How old were you back then, by the way? 04. We can do the math, but again, that's one of the few things we can do. 6 or 7 years old. The green hard hats behind you in Boom's cupboard there. What do you remember about old fours, retro on the blue line?
Honestly, that whole team for the most part, I see names every once in a while that pop up, and even ones that weren't on as far back that I forgot about. The Ole Jokinens and those guys that were there. But no, I mean that's when I really, really launched into hockey is when you guys did that. And I mean, obviously knowing more baseball now, that's basically what's happening with the Blue Jays in Canada, and it's good to see because. I think we're getting a lot more baseball kids in. So yeah, what you guys did for me with sports was pretty incredible. And yeah, I have you guys to thank for a lot. That's for sure.
There you go. No, Rhett had mentioned it. You can walk around rather anonymously in Calgary, and that's fine. We don't get Atlanta Braves games on TV very often. What about walking around in Atlanta? I imagine that's pretty different.
Yeah, it depends. It's typically in places where you stop. That's where I find it's like, waiting lounges, airports, stuff like that. And grocery stores when I'm sitting over there trying to pick raspberries that haven't gone bad yet and stuff like that. That's when people get a second look and, you stand out a little bit. But, I'm still fairly basic, I guess I would say. Because, we have guys like Ronald and Ozzy who are extremely recognizable in Atlanta with dreadlocks and, there were no shortage of jewelry and stuff like that.
The big chains.
Yeah, that stands out a little more. I'm a little more inconspicuous, but no, definitely the last couple of years, having not played too much, it's kind of died down. Yeah. But I'm starting to see it from the outside with guys like Riley and guys that really, really kind of shot up. And, he's not going to be able to go anywhere in Atlanta for quite some time now.
So how long are you back, and what does an off season look like for you, or is this a different one than a normal off season?
This is finally a normal off season. Yeah, the last 2 years, rehabbing the ankle. They've been long. They haven't really been off seasons.
Yeah,
kind of had to dedicate those to everything I could do for recovery and gaining strength back, just to give myself a chance to be back on the field. And we did that this year, but kind of got to a point where it's like, look, like I haven't gotten to train like an athlete in two plus years, right? So, especially having to run through the COVID off seasons here. The first year in 2020 was difficult. I think I was back for like 2 weeks, but this year finally like 4 months. Just started training like regular again. Get back to throwing, taking some Flames games, and it's gonna be really nice.
It's neat. They've brought you in. You've done some intermissions with Brendan Parker. They've had you around, and you're a huge Flames guy. So I imagine this was an exciting offseason for you. Where were you when you're catching this news? Because I feel like there's not a lot of people to bounce it off. Like, guys, this trade's huge. You're like, what sport is this? It's crazy Canadian.
Yeah, actually, we got a couple guys on our team. Ian Anderson, who's probably my best friend on the team. He's a huge Rangers fan.
Okay.
He pays closer attention to hockey as a whole in the NHL more than I do. So we get to talk quite a bit about that. But I liked what happened. I know you guys were all probably yelling rebuild at a certain point. I mean, I think everybody was kind of leaning towards that. We saw that core that we had for so long between Gaudreau and Monahan and Kachuk, and kind of flipped it around. And now we're looking at almost a more mature, strong team. I've liked it. I've liked what, snippets that Daryl said in interviews, and it just looks like a strong team again, and it's exciting.
You had noted you went deep undercover for the Vegas game or Carolina, one of the two in the last week or so, and you liked what you saw.
Yes. Yeah. I was, I just joined my dad. I came in, we didn't move from our seats the whole time. We were actually right behind the bench. So not really all that incognito, but, I just wanted to get down there. Obviously I came home before the season was kind of officially over. So just wanted to lay low for a minute, but now that we're out there, I think, we can get us some games and go enjoy it.
How do you deal with the setbacks you've had? I've always noted how mature you were, and that's kind of blown a lot of people away. That someone at the age you were drafted, the age you made your major league debut, you're like, wow, this is a poised guy. But I think that's probably been tested for you as well, given that you had the Achilles re-injury, and then this year hoping to be back and getting all the way to fall before you could throw. Like you said, you're finally getting a normal off season, but we're talking about like 2.5 years. That can't be easy mentally for you.
No. I mean, especially because it's all encompassing. It's your life, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what is different than a lot of just regular rehabs. You're not just getting into the point where you can, play a rec sport again. I got to do it and be the best in the world at something, and that's the difficult part is there's constant doubt whether you're going to be there. But perspective has been kind of my best friend through this whole thing. A lot of guys go through some big injuries in the minor leagues, in college. Luckily enough, with our Players Association, we take service time while we're on the 60-day IL, which has been huge. It's allowed me to kind of move forward and towards free agency. And now I got 2 years, 2 full years to be able to prove that I can stay healthy and be the player I was. So very thankful for that. And also realized that I was lucky enough to get called up at 20, 21, whatever I was. So although I feel like these last 3 years have really set me behind, at the end of the day, I got to remember I'm 25. And, I watch guys like Charlie Morton go out there and 39 years old, throwing 98 mile an hour, and Scherzer, same boat. So watching guys like that, I know that if I keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other, I might have a chance to do something similar.
When you look back, what are you most proud of so far? Because I think, to your point, there's a lot yet to be written. You're only 25, but you've had some great achievements early on already. An all-star game, the team that you were on wins a world championship, albeit while you're hurt.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, that's a tough one because personally, obviously, I think the All-Star game, I think everybody can say their first All-Star game is pretty wild. It's kind of an unexpected thing. You don't typically go into your rookie season gunning for the All-Star team. You know, you're just trying to prove that you can take one start after another, right? So we went out and won the World Series, obviously, when I'd been hurt pretty much. I mean, the entire season. I pitched one game in spring training, and then things kind of went downhill. And at first, I say it's a tough battle, emotionally. I think if anything, and I had Ronald to go through that with. He was coming back from ACL, and I remember in the minor leagues because we built it from the ground up in 2015. So when I got drafted, the Braves were not good for 2-3 years and kind of turned it around steadily. And we were always told and under the notion that if we were going to win a World Series, Ronald and I were going to be a large part of it on the field. And so both of us are set off on the sidelines, and we're watching a team. And to me, I thought it was quite obvious when we beat the Dodgers in the championship series. We were the team that year. That's what it was, and kind of got to be a close spectator. But I made sure to stick around during the playoffs. Also, watch. I couldn't even go inside and pop bottles early on because of slip risk. Right, I was still only like 4 months out of my second surgery, maybe even less. So, I had to watch from literally the outside in. And it just kind of, you take it to add fuel to the fire. Those are memories that, I'm very happy I got to be with them for, because at the end of the day, again, I could have been hurt in college, could have been hurt on the minor leagues or on a shitty team. Yeah. I still got to watch them do something pretty special. And, the part of it that was difficult, I get to store, keep in the bank for those days in August, September, when it's getting tough to push through, and remember what it felt like to watch from the outside and want to be a part of and dig deep and go get it.
You made an interesting point about it, service time, being hurt and still accruing service time. The Major League Baseball team's only for a while. It's basically 6 years of team control.
The Major League time, yeah.
Yeah, so if you'd got hurt the exact same injuries, missed the exact same amount of time, but you were AAA, like you still owe them, 5 years before you can be a free agent?
Yeah,
and now instead you're at 2.
Like
that's that is a blessing that you found. I think it's silver lining that many people wouldn't have found, I guess.
Yeah, and it goes as far as we went. I talked to my dad a lot, and he's good for that. Be able to say, it doesn't matter. Look at this guy. This guy went through this. We have a guy, AJ Minter, who went through Tommy John and thoracic outlet pretty well back-to-back years at the end of his college career, and those are big injuries as a pitcher. And guys that had their setbacks, and just because it wasn't quite in the spotlight yet, it wasn't so seen. That's all. And it goes as far as even finding books that offer you real perspective. I remember being told, it's like, oh, it's this is real shitty. You're losing your early 20s, and you go read a book about World War II POW in Singapore, and literally actually lost 6 years of his life as a prisoner in camp. And it's as far as going to see stuff like that, to where you realize you're like, okay, I'm doing all right. Let's recover here. Let's not panic. Those are the big ones for me, is just, again, perspective.
Yeah, well, that's impressive stuff. Tell me about what your day-to-day is right now. You're back in Calgary, you're training, and obviously you're working towards a pitchers and catchers reporting date somewhere in February, I'm guessing, but everything's a build towards that, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously looking towards this spring prior to injuries, the World Baseball Classic was running around again, and that's always going to be something on my mind, to be able to compete for Team Canada. And I'm not sure yet. I still have to talk to Alex Anthopoulos and see everything. I know I'm going to get going a little early because, again, I do have to earn a spot in camp.
Sure.
So I'm back to training. So train in the mornings. Going to get back to throwing here probably tomorrow, actually. So the new facility actually up at the end of Lower Springbank Road, Range Road 32. It's the Weber Wildcats.
Okay.
So Chris Rietzma is actually kind of heading the program.
There you are.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Exactly. And it's a beautiful new facility that Neil Weber has built. It's going to be incredible. And I'm going to be training out there too. And helping out a little bit. So very thankful for that, and a lot of good spots in Calgary, and living downtown this year too. So very close to the Dome, and let's get some good food. I guess I'll get some advice here later on. Apparently all the questions are asking about food here. So yeah, we'll find that, and really enjoy this city this off season, and get a good reset.
I love it. It's the city's proud of you. It's great to have you back. I'm glad you're gonna have a normal off season. We appreciate you coming in. Do you have a bold proclamation, prediction, or take for the Flames this year as you get to soak up a bit of this season here?
Tonight's gonna be a good one. I don't know about the rest of the season. We're gonna watch the game from somewhere tonight. That's gonna be, given what we did last time and kind of stunned them.
So the Saturday game against Edmonton, you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, tonight's gonna be a good one, but or Saturday, yeah. Sorry, that's not tonight. They say I lose track of this long homestand here is throwing me off.
It's a bunch.
Yeah, but yeah, we're excited. So this year, I think we're got to go deeper. I think this is finally, when I look at organizations in baseball that manage to stick there year in, year out. Obviously, Houston's the big one right now. They're, what is it, 3rd or 4th World Series in the last 5 years or something like that. It's built a certain way, and honestly, I know looking from the outside, it's a little easier to say because I don't know what it's like in that locker room, but Daryl seems to be doing a good job with the team aspect of things. We learned that in the minor leagues. They put us through team building camps because baseball is quite an individual sport, right? But learning how to actually be a unit. When I hear him talk about the way that this team is built with guys who play for the team, you can see it. You can see it when they go out there. You can see what Kadri's doing. You can see these guys that kind of put it in, shift out, and that's how championships built. I think this is finally one of the first years where I kind of watch the team and say, all right, we don't necessarily need this guy and this guy to show up and play out of their ass every night. That the slack's going to get picked up somewhere else, and that's exciting. So I don't know. I think the conference finals should happen.
You got to beat Edmonton, right? Isn't that it?
And I want to see another rematch with Edmonton because I watched that one in my living room on a stream, and yeah, it was a tough one.
There you go. But it does feel like the measuring stick is beating Edmonton. Rhett, come on back in. What's up?
Pinder does a terrible job interviewing because there's actually baseball being played. What are you thinking of the World Series matchup? And because I'm a medical freak and a conspiracy theorist, but I'm interested, with your injuries, did you get to do any funky medical treatments that the rest of us slugs wouldn't have access to? Did you do the stem cell treatment or any of that kind of stuff, or was it pretty standard?
So we didn't do any because stem cell is pretty broad right now. It's quite a wide range of things that you can do with it. I know to get the really, really good stuff, I'm pretty sure you got to fly into the Caribbean and get that done, but we didn't do that. They took stem cells from my hip, however. Needed a mallet to get the syringe in there, apparently. And yeah, so that's good Canadian beef growing up. It's the good bones. But they threw that in there in the second one. But I worked very heavily, and I'm working with a group out of Phoenix, which Rhett, you actually might have heard of. The outfit's called Evo Ultra Sport. They work with the ARP Wave. It's actually quite big in hockey right now. I know Jonathan Toews has been huge guy with them for quite some time. I know Patrick Kane as well recently. And, they've got an outfit of a bunch of guys that they work with remotely. Working with them in recovery has really helped. And obviously it's not cheap because I had to buy a machine and all that kind of stuff. But, other than that.
But doesn't it cut your workout down and recovery? Like it's like considerably. Isn't that the idea of that?
It can, if used properly. I mean, it's without getting into it too much, it's direct current stimulation, and you can get in trouble with it real quickly neurologically. You can really burn yourself out with it, and that's why seeing them and they understand how to use it has been big. But yes, in the sense that if you're doing things properly in their way, you are learning and making changes neurologically much quicker. And that's actually what I had the biggest issue with in my rehab. And this is probably even for a medical podcast, but neurologically, my lower right leg was shot.
So you couldn't communicate brain to leg easily.
It was very tough. And because of 3 surgeries in a span of 18 months and, big trauma, blew it twice, clean outs, there was a cyst in there. Yeah, it was a mess. And coming back, I noticed those plateaus that I was hitting in my rehab were just, it seemed like I almost got to about a 6-month mark and things just kind of stopped getting stronger. And that's when I said, all right, I gotta do something different. Let's work it up. And they've done a great job for that. But that is available to public. Obviously it's a little pricey, but no more so than if you're going to PT every single day for a recovery. So stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, with any large rehab, it's about putting in the work. And it is monotonous. I don't want to say it's super heavy, demanding work, but it's stuff that, you got to do once, twice, 3 times a day. I mean, you know how it is. It's
so
again, you're
boring.
trying to be the best at something. Ugh. It's so boring. And that's where we got to at the end of this year. I was fried. I was just like, I have no adrenaline. I have no compete that's coming up in me because I'm shot. Huh. I've been doing just calf raises and foot mobility and intrinsic toe stuff for the last, 2.5 years, to where you're just like turning on that switch to just say, okay, go compete, was extremely difficult. And I found that I was pretty well scraping the barrel at the end of this year. And, it gives you a different perspective when you see guys come back from injuries. It's different playing a couple games and that's what we got. And that's kind of what I was seeing was like, all right, I know I'm playing at about 85% of what I probably have, but I'd have a glimpse of like, oh, I can go out there and my first outing punched out 8 of the first 9 guys. And I'm like, yeah,
we're back.
This is it. I got it. And then the next game I went out and didn't get a single strikeout, gave up like 3 runs in 3 innings. And it was like, shit, where'd it go?
Yeah.
And that was the difficult part was, I just didn't have any sort of consistency, any sort of competition left in me for that. I kind of wasted it all on rehab, and I shouldn't say wasted because it was put to good use, but difficult, but that's why this off season is going to be extremely important. And already like I'm enjoying training again, I'm getting back out there and lifting and moving around is fun again. And that's exciting to me. I can't wait to start throwing and, have fun with it again.
Phillies, or do we like the Astros, who noted they've been here a bunch? You'd know the Phillies really well. Not that you don't know the Astros, but that's a divisional team. I'm sure you saw a ton of.
Yeah, the Phillies all year, the last couple of years, honestly, have been one of those teams where you don't go into town looking at their record and thinking that they're playing to that record. And I think that's the big thing, was that they have basically a perennial all-star MVP candidate in Bryce Harper, and then multiple guys throughout that lineup that can still do damage. And I think that's what you're seeing right now, is they're hot. They finished the season last year or this year with basically the same record that we did the year before when we won it.
Yeah.
And they got hot. And the other interesting thing, and I don't want to get into it too much because I know this is a hockey podcast, but anybody that knows bullpens now knows that, lefty specialists have typically died down because now you got to face 3 hitters. But in neutralizing Harper, who's hot right now, the Astros have, I don't think that they've had our lefty in their bullpen.
Really?
And although their righties have done a good job against lefties, late in game, that's the only thing I wonder that might neutralize it, because as a whole, I still would say Houston's the better team. But the Phillies are hot. Bryce Harper's had a knack for doing things later in the game recently. I don't know. It's going to be a lot. I think it'll be a lot closer than people think, just because they watched what Astros did to the Yankees and kind of spanked them. It was a tough series.
Rhett, you got to pick. Who do you like?
Phillies, they're coming in hot. They're excited, and they're not a bunch of damn cheaters.
There you go.
I honestly, if I had to throw out a guess, I'd say Phillies too, and partially because, you know, we've said it for years that we thought the NL East was a little bit underrated because we all play each other, and that's why our records might not jump out. But, you know, there's 3 really good teams at the top of that division between us, the Mets, and the Phillies. So I'm going to go Phillies and make that, like, what is it, 3 out of the last 4 years NL teams. So NL East teams. So here we go.
Thanks for stopping by. It's an absolute pleasure. And we hope to do it again soon. Have a great off season. We're really excited to see you get fired up in the spring.
Thank you guys. It's always a pleasure. You guys, good luck with this. I know it's a lot of fun being live too.
Yeah, sure.
That's part of the fun of it. So go Flames, and I'll see you guys later.
All right. That's something we're going to call the Pinder Report today. We're back with more Barn Burner in a moment.